Okay, so I've actually been buying quite a few cars here lately. Prices have been going down on the auction level. So later on this video, I'm going to share with you exactly what I bought, what I paid for them, and what I plan on selling them. But what's very interesting is that as I'm going through this car market during this time period, it seems like it's as far as what I'm experiencing at my car lot is really countering. It's the opposite of what I'm saying in a lot of my videos, and what I'm really experiencing at these auctions. Observing what other dealers are experiencing. Let me show you something right here. This is my car lot right now. It's empty, right? So this is you see the front part of this van right here on the right hand side. This is the only car, actually it's number 2 car that we have facing this way on my lot. If you've seen some of our other videos where I'll walk my car lot, you know that typically I'll have what 30, 40 cars stretched out across this whole area over here. We usually have a car lot full of cars, and we don't have that right now because we have been absolutely my sales staff have been selling cars like crazy. Just this past Tuesday they sold 8 cars on a Tuesday. That's not rare for us to do that kind of volume on a Saturday. But for Tuesday it's that's a lot of cars, and it has been for us recently. So what's going on? There's either one or two of two scenarios that's happening right now in the car market to allow us to be just wide open right now. Um, and the first scenario is okay. The economy's booming. Everyone has money. People are spending money. They're buying everything up, and that's why they're coming and buying cars from me. But really, that's not what I am observing by going to these car auctions and seeing that dealers aren't paying as much for their cars. Me seeing that, okay, sellers are now willing to take less, they're starting to dump cars. And me hearing from franchise managers, I'm hearing from other creators, hearing from automotive news, things like franchise dealers begging these manufacturers to lower MSRPs because they can't sell cars, begging manufacturers to increase incentives because they need help selling the cars, asking manufacturers to help them out on their floor plans because these cars are sitting for longer. So that would go against the scenario where, okay, people just are flush with money and they're buying cars, and that's why I'm selling cars. But I don't think that's the case. I think the second scenario is actually what's going on. And what I believe to be going on is that because I'm in a niche that sells cars that are $5,000 and under, I think we're inheriting a bigger piece of the pie. I think because banks are getting tighter, because loans are getting harder to obtain, because the MSRPs on these new cars are still absolutely ridiculous. The average new car is still right around $50,000. Now that's a big basket of cars, right? It's going to be heavily influenced by like these 70, 80, $90,000 trucks. But just if you throw all the new cars that are out there right now, the average price of them is $50,000. But even the cheaper, more affordable cars that like your Camrys, your Honda Accords, your Corollas, your Civics, they're still like 27, 28, 29, $30,000 just for your lower trims. So I think that's really pushing people into used vehicles. And then, okay, well, if they're being pushed to used vehicles because the MSRPs are so high, well, then used car prices should be still very elevated, right? And that's not what I'm experiencing at these auctions. We're seeing that the prices at these auctions are going down, and that's allowing us to go in and buy more cars, and we're able to buy cars cheaper right now than we have been in a very long time. And what I'm noticing from a lot of dealers is that, okay, a lot at these dealer auctions, there are fewer dealers there. So that's telling me that other dealers are not having the same kind of experience that I'm having. So the dealers that are that tier up, that $5,000 to $15,000 range, they're not buying as many vehicles, and some of their lower tier vehicles that they would typically sell for $5,000-6,000 or whatever, those are now falling into the price range where I can buy them. So that's just showing me that there's not an appetite out there right now from these used car dealers to buy a lot of these vehicles. And it's saying that the consumer right now is not strong. So because they're not buying these upper level cars, they're not buying the even the mid tier cars, then I think a lot of those customers are coming to my niche and are having to buy a $3,500 car or having to buy a $2,500 car because they just can't afford to get into the payments for these newer vehicles. The average new car payment is still like it's north of $700. It's like $750 a month. People just can't afford it right now. So that's what we're seeing. We're seeing us actually inheriting a lot of these customers, and that's my really opinion. That's my read of what's going on right now and why we're so wide open and we're able to get better deals. And there seems like this is a much softer. At least we can look at the numbers and see that the wholesale prices over the last 3-4 months have absolutely cratered. And it's just that there's no appetite from a lot of these used car dealers is because they loaded up. And I've talked about tax time a lot. And this tax time, we killed it. We crushed it. So a lot of the things that I've showed you on my YouTube channel over the last few months is maybe not what the rest of the market is experiencing, and it's going to boil down to the kind of cars that I sell versus what the median market, what the market is typically used to seeing. And because our cars are so cheap, that's why we killed it during tax time. And I talked to all these other dealers, and they're like, "Well, what tax time?" There's so many dealers that I walked up to, wanted to interview them for the channel or whatever. Say, "Okay, yeah, tell me how tax time was," and they're like, "We didn't see any tax time. What tax money? What's that?" Yeah. So a lot of these dealers, in anticipation for this tax time bump, they loaded up, and guess what? They never had that sell through. They never had that time where they just all the customers rushed into the door, bought all their cars like they did at our car dealership, and they didn't turn over this inventory. So they have slowly been able to probably turn some of their inventory. They're going to have to get it off their floor plans to be able to replenish their inventory. It wasn't frantic. It wasn't chaotic this year. After tax time, we were able to buy throughout, which is very, very weird. And now we're needing to ramp up our buying, but it's at a perfect time right now because middle summer is when dealers are very slow. There's a couple times during the year where car dealerships are very slow, and we start seeing the weakness at these auctions. And that's the middle summer when kids are out of school, people are traveling for vacation. That's a very weak time for car sales, used car sales at least. And then at the very end of the year, right around the holidays, that's when it gets very weak. So this is a good time for us to be unloading all of these cars and to need to restock because prices should be very weak on the wholesale level for us going through the rest of the summer. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm not looking forward to having to I'm not going to say panic buy. We don't really do that, but we will have to stretch probably a little bit of what we're buying, giving Alex some a little bit more work. Went to an auction yesterday, and I was usually Alex, my mechanic, is the one buying cars, but I got to raise my hand a few times yesterday, so I might have overpaid just a little bit, but we need cars. So one other caveat I'll say to this: typically we're not this low during this time of year. And one thing, our detailers, they were on vacation this past week, so we do have more than like 3 cars sitting out there. We've got a whole front line. And I counted, I think 17 cars is what we have right now for sale, and typically we'll have 40-50 cars for sale. That's what I like to have throughout the year. So we are very, very, very down, but detailers are out, and I think we have like 10 to 15 cars that are sitting back behind our building that are waiting to be cleaned. They're all ready, they're fixed, they're inspected, everything like that. So we're waiting on them to actually get that done. But let me jump into what we've bought over the last week and a half, and I'll go through prices, tell you what they are. I'll even tell you what I'm potentially going to sell them for, as long as we don't have any repairs. Now, with all these cars, obviously we don't know that they're perfect until they get here. And then we'll go through them and see if we have to do any kind of repairs or anything like that. So just know that these numbers, they can move. If I say that we're going to sell something for $3,500, but when it gets here, after being transported, we figure out, okay, it needs a wheel bearing, it needs brakes, something like that, then the more money we put into a car, obviously the more money that we'll have to charge for it if we want to hit that magical number of what we want to make. And what we typically make on a car is anywhere from about $1,000 to $1,200 is around our average. So some will make more than that, some will even take losses on. We don't want to, but sometimes we just buy cars bad, or we have a fix that we're unaware of whenever we buy it. Sometimes these cars can be gambles, especially when I'm buying them. But anyway, I'll run down a few of them. As a 2006 Ford Explorer we bought, we paid only $1,000 for it. It's actually it wasn't the exact Explorer that we bought, but I put Explorer in the thumbnail and put $1,000 over it because we did just buy one for $1,000. Every once in a while, we'll have something like that fall through the cracks. That car is going to be, as long as there's nothing wrong with it, $2,500, and somebody is going to get a steal on that car because we were able to steal it at auction. We bought a 2008 Toyota RAV4. I try to buy as many Toyotas as possible. Alex tries to buy as many Toyotas as possible. RAV4s, Camrys, Corollas. If we can buy them reasonably, if they're good. That's my favorite thing to have on my lot. You can see, it's funny. I'll pop that picture back up. If I can figure out how to do it. Yeah, there we go. So this is our lot. And can I show the mouse on it? Yeah. So you can't see the emblem, but this is a Toyota Sienna. So I think we have 2 Toyota Siennas out there and a Camry. Oh, look way in the back. There's an older Toyota Sienna. So we love Toyotas. That's my opinion, best cars that you can buy. But 2008 Toyota RAV4, and we paid $2,500 for it. Now I've got my price sheet here, and it says that we have 27,800. I can't do numbers right now. Numbers are hard. But it says we have $2,785 in it. So we would have paid $2,500 for it. And then we have a $285 buyer fee on it. So all these cars that I'm going to be telling you about, it's the prices that we actually paid at auction. So after that, we're going to have our buyer fee, which can range anywhere from $200 to a little over $300, depending on the auction and depending on the amount that we pay. Now, I bought some cars recently that I paid like 20 grand for, and those buyer fees were like $500, $600. So just to show you how it tiers up, depending on how much you actually pay for the car. It's not a percentage off the car. They don't go that. They do like a stair-stepping kind of tier system, and every auction does the same thing, where if you buy $1,000 car, it might be a $200 buyer fee. Then the next tier is $1,500, and it'll jump up to like $225 and so on and so forth. So it's not necessarily a straight percentage that they charge. At least there's no auctions that I've ever been to that have charged a straight percentage. But they have this stair-stepping kind of buyer fee. But anyway, we pay $2,500 for that RAV4. It's going to be probably a $4,000 car on our lot. If we have to fix anything on it, obviously it'll be a little bit more than that. We can probably sell it for $4,500 pretty easily. And if there's something that we have to repair, that's where it'll probably start. But if it is not, then we like to pass on some deals to our customers too. We bought a 2003 Mazda MPV. Those we buy a lot of minivans. I'm noticing that too. I just showed you the Siennas. I got an MPV right here. We got a Town and Country that's coming up too, but we sell a lot of minivans. And what I've found is that in our niche, that $5,000 and under niche, is that people will gravitate more to minivans than they will to big SUVs. But when you get into the next tier, like over $5,000, that customer base will gravitate more to third row SUVs than they will minivans. And the reason being is because my customer is looking for an A to B car. They're looking for something that they can pay cash for, something that they're not going to have to pay a lot of money to keep it maintained. And minivan is going to fall into the budget arena a lot easier than, say, your big Tahoes, your Suburbans, things like that. So my customer base, it greatly gravitates towards minivans than they would the big third row SUVs. But anyway, 2003 Mazda MPV. It's only got 119,000 miles, and we paid. I didn't buy this one. Alex bought this one. He only paid $1,100 for this van. This is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about going through these auctions. Is that okay? 6 months ago, 12 months ago, things didn't fall through the cracks like that. This is a vehicle that fell through the cracks. And what they're what was happening 6 months, 12 months ago is that you had so many dealers at these auctions that it was impossible for a deal like this with lower mileage on a 2003 Mazda MPVs. I mean, there's some dealers out there that are going to sell that van for like $6,000 because it's only got 120,000 miles. And all these dealers, if they're in the lane, if they're trying to buy cars, if they're fighting each other for these cars, stuff like that doesn't go through the auction for $1,100. And now we're seeing a lot more of that. I mean, that Ford Explorer is another good example earlier on that I told you we only paid $1,000 for it. That stuff didn't fall through. And that's one thing that I think me and Alex are both really good at, is that we get there early. We go check out as many cars as possible, because if there's going to be a deal on a car, if there's a good car, if there's going to be a car that falls through the cracks, I want us to be the ones that catch it. And I think Alex does a really good job of that. And I think I've taught him very well to be able to put himself in the situation at these auctions to be able to do that. But just it's just amazing that we're able to do that now, and showing the weakness of the market, that dealers, they're not putting as many cars on their list. I know this sounds silly, but I mean, 6 months ago, 12 months ago, when dealers were trying to buy as many cars as possible, they were doing the same thing that me and Alex were doing, and they're putting everything on their list because they wanted to be able to buy as many as possible. But now a dealer might walk across that MPV van and be like, okay, this is a minivan. We don't sell them all that well. You know what? Let's not even check it out. But if you would have told that dealer before he even saw that van on the auction lot that it was going to be $1,100, they're absolutely checking out that van. They're absolutely going to look at. So just knowing that dealers are now just walking past cars that they would have put on their list 6 months ago, 12 months ago, is showing me that the market's getting weaker, and that dealers, there's not a lot of appetite from these dealers, who probably have a full lot, are probably having a hard time getting customers into loans, and are probably having a little bit of a hard time with their floor plans. So they're not overexerting themselves right now, buying more cars than what they actually need, because they feel like they can't sell them. Okay, back to that van. We paid $1,100 for it. It's going to be a $2,500 van for us all day long, and it'll sell very quickly. 2011 Chrysler Town and Country. It's got 167,000 miles. It's good mileage for us too. Again, and he paid $1,300 for it. This is another one. I mean, another minivan falling through the cracks. It's a 2011, and we paid $1,300 for it. It's going to be a $2,500, $3,000 van. Since that one's newer, it's probably going to lean more towards the $3,000 range. But it blows me away every time I see these numbers, just because of I'm thinking that we're getting back to where we were 4 or 5 years ago. And it's going to take a long time. It's going to be slow. And I'm going to see it way before you're going to see it in these auction prices. But it makes me happy that I'm going to be able to sell cars now for like $2,500, $3,000 again, and be able to give my customer that kind of range of car that needs help buying a car at that range. And we don't have to sell stuff that I think is $3,500 car for $4,500 because we had to pay $2,500 for it at the auction. I like getting back to this range of being able to buy cars that we can sell for under. I mean, we're gonna have cars that we can sell for under $3,000 on a lot. I love it. It's my favorite thing to do, is to be able to sell $2,500 cars. 2008 Nissan Versa. We paid $1,500 for it. That'll be a $2,500, $3,000 car. A 2013 Hyundai Sonata. We paid $2,800, and that's with fees. We paid $2,500 for it. Probably that's a 2013, so maybe we didn't pay too much for that, but it'll be probably a $4,000 car for us. It's got 170,000 miles. 2012 Ford Fusion. We paid $1,300 for it. That was a good buy. 2012 Ford Fusion. We paid $1,300 for it. That'd be a $2,500, $3,000 car. 2008 Jeep Liberty. It's got 170 on it. We paid, it looks like $2,400 for it. It'll be a $4,000 car. Jeep Liberties, we sell them a lot too. Before I run out of time, I want to make sure I get to a couple of these questions. So Ron, and actually I put the list away. I had more cars and more good deals. Maybe next live stream we'll talk a little bit more about what I bought recently. Ron saying, do you think floor plan costs prevent dealer from giving a better price on a new car sitting on the lot for 10 months as they don't want to book the loss created by carrying costs? So I learned something interesting. So I just talked to an auction operator. We did an interview on our main channel, and one thing that I learned from him is that okay, there's a lot of no sales that go through the auction, and what he was saying is that, okay, if they no sell a week after week after week, I asked him, what's the dialogue with that? Why don't they just cut it loose? They know first money's best money. And he was saying, well, it really comes down to their accounting, because he'll talk to them and he'll say, the seller will say, well, you know what? I probably should sell it for this, but we need to show that loss next month and not this month. So let's just run it again next week. And if it brings that again, or even less, then I can do it. And I said, that's so weird. So they're willing to just lose an extra $500 by running it next week, just so they can make their numbers work out on a month-to-month basis. And I said, it's just creative accounting, right? He said, exactly. And a lot of these sellers do that. So that's on the used car side when they're bringing it, but they'll do the same thing. I feel like when they're talking about, okay, cutting loose some of their new cars and stuff that's been sitting on their floor plan. So if they've already hit their numbers for a certain month, even if that car is going to cost them another $800, $1,000, whatever on their floor plan to roll it over to the next month, if they've already hit their numbers and they don't think that and they're not just being pushed to just get rid of cars right now so they can get their big check from the manufacturer, then yeah, they're just going to kick the can down the road and do that. And this is why you want to make sure when you're going to go buy a new car, try to aim it towards the end of the month, because that's when, if they haven't hit their numbers, they're going to get pinched a little bit more. They're going to be like, okay, well, we do have this one on the floor plan, it's been on there for 10 months. They're going to be a lot more negotiable. But all these managers, these franchise managers are trying to do is just creative accounting. And that's what happens on the wholesale realm of things, and that's what's going to happen with these dealers that have kept their cars for, as Ron says, 10 months, and they're paying floor plan. It's all going to boil down to what they've sold that month, what they need to move, and if they don't feel stressed to move cars, if they don't feel a pinch, if they need to sell 100 cars in that month and they've sold 102, they don't care about that floor plan rolling on over to the next month. I know that overall the numbers make sense from an owner standpoint. Like I'm an owner of a business. The overall numbers would make more sense to me to just, okay, dump it whenever you got a buyer in there, especially if you've had it for 10 months. But the way that the system is set up, where they get monies from the manufacturer for selling a certain amount of cars, there's a lot more going on than them just selling that one particular car, having that one particular car on their floor plan for a given amount of time. There's so many other elements that are going on. And really, at the end of the day, them having that loss on that one car, they're not really making a ton of money off selling the actual car. They make all their money from other places. So that little bit of floor plan that they're paying month to month, they don't really feel all that bad about it. And really, the big picture is not really lying in the hands of the person that's negotiating with it either. It's all from higher up, and they're trying to hit their numbers, and that's the main deal, because they might break even on that car that they're selling to you, but at the end of the day, they might be getting cut a $200,000 check from Nissan if they've hit that number, and they might even want to save that car or save that sale for the next month so they can get that $200,000 check again on the next month. So let's pull up one more question, then we'll bounce. John asks, how can I use this information to get lower prices at the dealership I'm trying to buy a car at? So right now we know that dealerships are being more negotiable. We just talked about it with these new car dealers, that they are trying to move out cars. What you need to do, though, you're probably not going to see it on the retail side as far as advertising goes. Dealers are very stubborn. They want to leave their prices as high as possible when they're advertising their car, even if they'll negotiate way off the price of a car, because they think that there's a sucker out there, right? You just need to make sure that you're not the sucker. Go in, know what you want to pay for the car, know about how much you think you can get off of the car, make an offer, make sure it's always an out the door price. Doesn't matter what kind of add-ons, whatever. You need to know what you want to pay for it out the door. Go make that offer. And my grandfather used to say it all the time when I was looking at cars at auctions. If I missed one because it was too much money, I'm like, you know what? I should have just paid a little bit more. He's like, no, son, don't pay more than what you think you should pay. Because they make them every single day. And it's that case. I mean, they've made these cars every single day. Even if you're looking at a used car, there's tons of them out there. Don't get stuck on one car. If a dealer will not come down to your number, and that's a number that you're comfortable with, guess what? There's another dealer next door. There's another dealer a town over. You might have to drive a little bit, but there's another dealer a state over that has the exact same car in the almost exact same condition with almost the exact same miles, and you can find them everywhere. So don't get stuck on that car. That's probably my biggest bit of advice, is be willing to walk away from the deal. Because if you have all the power, whenever you walk away from the deal, you're not giving them any of your money, and you can go somewhere else, and let them call you back. The two times that I've actually had to negotiate with a dealer myself when I was buying a car from another dealer, both times for me to get the deal that I wanted, I literally one time I actually left and they called me on the way home, and the other time I had my hand on the door walking out, and then they came down to my number. That's the two experiences I have negotiating with another dealer, and both times I had to leave to get the number that I want. So be willing to leave. That's the biggest thing. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel, like this video, and I hope you have a great